Welcome back to the last week in PlayStation, the weekly show where I round up the last week of PlayStation news, so you don't have to. I really enjoyed making last week's video, so I'm back for a second one. Like I said last week, this is going to be a weekly thing, so here's all the news from the week beginning June 22nd. Our first story is that a market analyst predicts the PlayStation 5 will significantly outsell the Xbox Series X. This article comes from GiveMeSport.com. Research Director for Games at Ampere Analysis, Piers Harding Rolls, has released a report which predicts that the PlayStation 5 will have outsold the Xbox Series X by 2024. In 2024, Rolls believes that Sony will have sold 66 million PS5s, while Microsoft will have sold 37 million of their own console. Now, that's all well and good, but we obviously have no actual way of knowing what way things will go, but what we can do is look at the facts of what we do know. The PS4 has significantly outsold the Xbox One, with many people making the move from Xbox 360 to PS4 throughout the generation. Sony has marketing rights to big games like Call of Duty, so you see the advertisement for the new COD game and you see the PlayStation logo before or after it. That sells systems, and Sony definitely have the edge here, and I think we're going to see this carry on into the next generation. Sony definitely care more about the games from what we can see right now. That of course could all change, but compared to Microsoft, the main game we know they have this holiday is Halo 6, and I'm not sure it's enough when you're buying a PS5 on the promise of Spider-Man, Horizon, Ratchet & Clank, etc. This analyst definitely has ground to stand on with his prediction, but Microsoft could completely surprise us in the coming months and we'll just have to wait and see. Some good news: if you're excited for the upcoming Marvel's Avengers game, the game's publisher Square Enix announced on Monday that when the PlayStation 5 launches this holiday season, Marvel's Avengers will be one of the games immediately available to play. This is great news for me because I'm personally very much looking forward to this game. I'm a big MCU fan, love the Avengers movies, so I'm interested to see this take on the franchise. Marvel's Avengers is scheduled to debut September 4th on Google Stadia, PlayStation 4, Windows and Xbox One. People who buy the game on their current gen console will be able to get the upgrade to the next gen version from PS4 to PS5 without having to spend a penny. The upgrade will apply for both physical and digital copies on PlayStation, said the game's developer Crystal Dynamics. The PlayStation YouTube channel got some gameplay from Marvel's Avengers this week, and honestly it looks pretty good. It feels like a little bit of a step up from what we saw last year, and I'm guessing Sony has marketing rights to this game because their Twitter has been very active talking about the game this week. I'm already sold on the game, so I'll be picking it up and sharing my thoughts on it when it finally releases later on this year. Moving into our next bit of news, at no real surprise to anybody, The Last of Us 2 is the PS4's biggest launch of this generation. In its first 3 days, it sold over 4 million copies. It beat out Uncharted 4, which was holding that title before, meaning Naughty Dog have been on top this generation. The game actually knocked Animal Crossing off its pedestal, with sales in the launch weekend being 40% higher. So this is record-breaking stuff. People thought after all the leaks that the game wouldn't sell all that well, but people saying how bad a game is on Twitter, not always but often, are the most vocal and make it seem like a game is getting boycotted despite the fact it's going to sell like crazy. We've seen it with Pokemon Sword and Shield and now this. Honestly, it probably just ends up being publicity for the game, which gets more people interested in buying it. In the case of The Last of Us Part 2, I avoided all the leaks, which made me want to buy the game even more to see what's making everyone so mad. An article on T3.com this week told us about an SSD that will be compatible with your PlayStation 5. The PS5 is going to launch with 825GB of storage, which is probably going to fill up fast, so you're going to need to expand your storage. The minimum speed you need to run PS5 games from a second storage device is 5.5GB a second. The Samsung 980 Pro SSD is going to have speeds of up to 6.5GB a second and is the right type of SSD for PS5. Its capacity ranges from 250GB to a terabyte, but the catch is something like this will probably be very expensive. But it's good to know the technology is already there, it's just not out yet. Twitter leaker Ice Universe claims it should be out by August, giving people time to pick one up before the PlayStation 5's holiday release window. This one comes from Push Square. An interesting patent filed by Sony reveals a pretty cool potential PS5 feature. It's basically a picture-in-picture option. In the diagrams, the patent shows how you may want to layer a small video feed over your main screen. Other examples include showing a stream offset to the left with comments published beneath it. Also, the option on the left seems to have potentially different background options. I think this could be a pretty useful feature to have because say you're really stuck at a certain point in a game, maybe you could use this feature to pull up a walkthrough on YouTube that you can play along with. Another use I can think of where this would be useful is you're playing a certain type of game, maybe a Borderlands or something, and you just have to grind a load of missions that don't necessarily require your undivided attention. Or basically any game you're grinding XP or going around a map and picking up collectibles for a trophy. I can see this feature being useful in those situations because you could be watching some YouTube videos while you play. Maybe it could even have Netflix integration, who knows. The thing about patents though is they often don't actually materialize into anything. This feature would certainly be cool, but it's not set in stone or anything. So the Xbox boss Phil Spencer broke the silence on his thoughts regarding the recent PS5 event. What he said was, just being honest, I felt good after seeing the show. I think the hardware advantages that we have built are going to show up as we're talking more about our games and frame rates and other things. He seems very confident about what Xbox is revealing in July, and maybe he has great reason to. What I want to touch on is hardware advantages and frame rate. Realistically, the average person doesn't care about frame rate as long as the game runs well. I have a strong feeling they're going to bring up the Series X pushing 120 FPS in games, which is great, but I don't know a single person with a TV or monitor capable of displaying 120 FPS in their house. The people with that kind of display are mainly the hardcore PC crowd. Plus, we've seen it time and time again. Hardware advantages aren't a good reason for a company to feel confident over their competitors because the PS2 was less powerful than the original Xbox and outsold it. The Wii wasn't even a HD system and it outsold the PS3 and Xbox 360. But I mean, hey, Microsoft may unveil some very interesting looking exclusives in their next event that make everyone rush out and get an Xbox Series X, but for right now, they can't bank on the most powerful hardware giving them the edge. So it's been over a week and I'm sure many people are finishing up their Last of Us Part 2 playthroughs. People were wondering what's next for the series and what if there would be any DLC coming to the game. Unfortunately, there won't be any. As part of a spoiler cast with Kinda Funny, Neil Druckmann went on record stating that the team won't be doing any DLC for The Last of Us Part 2. His exact words were, "There are no plans for DLC." So yeah, that's a pretty definitive answer here regarding DLC from the studio's vice president. A silver lining, however, is they plan to have a multiplayer for The Last of Us Part 2 ready for PS5 coming out, so there is more content on its way, it's just not single player content. We still have no word on what July's free PS Plus games will be. I was kind of hoping we would so I could cover it in this week's video, but I guess we'll just have to wait a little longer. On the topic of PS Plus games, however, June was an extremely popular month for the service. I mean, if you take a look at the numbers, Call of Duty World War II saw a jump of 8.2 million new players, which is insane for a near 3-year-old game. I mean, Call of Duty is just one of those games that can pull in numbers like that. Star Wars Battlefront 2 also saw a pretty big jump in players with a boost of 4.4 million players. This just shows the value of having a strong PS Plus lineup. It will keep people paying for the service. I expect July's lineup is going to be pretty good as well, as it's going to be the 10th anniversary of the service, but hopefully they do something special to celebrate it. Maybe include some extra good games. Finally, I want to quickly mention the PS Store has a couple of pretty decent sales on right now, at least here in the UK. So even though I'm certainly an advocate for supporting physical media, there's certainly some decent prices to be had there. So check it out if you're interested. So that was the second episode of The Last Week in PlayStation. I definitely feel like this week was a little lighter on news, but we still had some fun stuff to cover. If you're interested in more videos by me, I recently took a look at Days Gone and Uncharted 4 and shared my thoughts on them. You can find both those videos by clicking on the channel. Another thing, I'd like to thank anyone who checked out my video on PS5 backwards compatibility, because it did surprisingly well and I'm really happy about that. Finally, if you enjoyed, please hit the like button and consider subscribing. I'll be doing this every Sunday and it's nice to have your weekly PlayStation news all wrapped up into one easy to watch video. Thanks for watching, bye.